Hi, this video is going out to Will, Ravidas, and whoever else might be interested. We are going to be talking about the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, shloka 28, verse 28. Every single verse basically has some kind of challenge for the translator who's translating it into a different language, which means it's challenging for the reader too. If you really want to understand what the Gita is saying, you definitely have to consider what it's actually saying, right? And so we're going to go into that. We're going to and let me just say a few prefatory words. First of all, I just published a translation that is out on Amazon. It's in soft cover and Kindle formats as of now. And I think it's a very good translation. Every translation, as I've been saying, has its pluses and minuses, let's say. If you want to find a good translation, you definitely want to find one with more pluses and minuses. Some translations do not adhere as closely to it. It really depends what you want, right? If you want a translation that adheres very closely to what the Sanskrit, in this case the Sanskrit, actually says, then my translation is good. If you want a more a translation that strays a little bit from the exact wording of the Sanskrit, but gives you more explanation of what is actually being said, then other translations would be better. My translation does not do that. So, and those are the two main possibilities here, I think. When translating the Gita, you either have a fairly literal translation, word for word. Mine is not so word for word that it's clunky. But the other possibility is you have a freer translation that adds some things to help explain for the reader what is really meant by the verse. And that's sometimes problematic because that can be interpretive, on the translator's part. So this chapter 3, is talking a lot about action, about karma. Karma generally gets translated as action. Sometimes it gets translated as ritual action. And it's also talking about the gunas. It brings in the concept of the gunas. The gunas is often translated as qualities, and that's how I translate it. Sometimes it's translated as modes of material nature, meaning modes of prakriti being material nature. Sometimes it gets translated in other ways as well. Part of the challenge of this particular verse is how do we translate guna here? And let's just get into it and we'll see what the problem is. Here's it in Sanskrit. Tattva-vit mahā-bāho guṇa-karma-vibhāgayoḥ guṇā-guṇeṣhu vartanta iti matvā na sajjate. Simple English, but the one who knows the truth, O mighty-armed Arjuna, about the two roles of the qualities in action, having thought, quote, the qualities work among the qualities, is not attached. Okay, so we have the word guna here 3 times. But the one who knows the truth, tattva-vit, two is but, tattva is truth. Tat is actually means that, right? Tat is often used actually even in the Gita to speak about the ultimate reality. Tat, meaning you can't name what it is. You have to say that it's tat. It's that. So tattva also can mean thatness, but it can also be translated as truth. So, and vit would be knower. It's like tattva-vid, vid is knower, like Veda, the word Veda. Tattva-vit too. So, but the one who knows the truth, or the one who knows thatness, mahā-bāho is the nickname or epithet of Arjuna, means the mighty armed one or the great armed one, about the two roles of the qualities in action, guṇa-karma-vibhāgayoḥ. Vibhāgayoḥ means the two roles. Guṇa is quality or qualities. There's 3 gunas, by the way. There's sattva, rajas, and tamas. And action is karma, right? Having thought, matvā, and then this is in quotations, and the reason why it's in quotations is because you have the word iti, which oftentimes indicates that it's to be put in quotations. So you think this person who knows the truth thinks the qualities work among the qualities, is not attached, right? That person who knows the truth and understands that the gunas work among the gunas is not attached. This is a very literal translation, what I have here. We're going to see some translations, as I said, which add some things, which add some explanatory material. But I think it's important that we read what came before and what came after, because there's kind of like a trilogy or a triptych, a triad of verses here, right? So verse 27, the verse before this says, actions in all cases are performed by the qualities of material nature. He whose mind is confused by egoism imagines, quote, I am the doer, right? I am the doer. Karta aham iti manyate. Verse 28 is our verse. It says, but he who knows the truth, O Arjuna, about the two roles of the qualities in action, thinking the qualities work among the qualities, is not attached. So the one who's wrapped up in his ego, or his or her ego, thinks I am the doer, right? I am the author of my action. I am the one who's doing here. But the one who knows that everything is the gunas working on the gunas, and the person really is not the doer, right? The Supreme Self is the doer. But the Supreme Self also does not do anything, right? That's why this gets confusing. So let's read the next verse, 29. Those deluded by the qualities of material nature are attached to the actions of the qualities. The perfect knower should not disturb the foolish men of incomplete knowledge. Now this is similar to what Jesus says in the Gospels. He says, let sleeping dogs lie, or, don't throw pearls before swine. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus actually says, I'm giving these parables. He says to his apostles, I'm giving these parables to confuse people, actually, right? So that they won't understand. But to you, I'm giving you the deeper truth. What Krishna is really getting at here is, actually, it's not exactly what Jesus was saying in the Gospels, but it's similar enough. What he's getting at is, you don't want to confuse people. You want to meet people where they're at, and you don't want to bring in this highfalutin philosophy. Most people are not open to it. That will disturb them, that will confuse them, that will upset them in some way. So Krishna is advising Arjuna not to do that, right? And he's advising all of us, because Arjuna is everyone, in a sense. But the one who knows the truth, O mighty-armed Arjuna, about the two roles of the qualities in action, having thought the qualities work among the qualities, is not attached. Now, about the two roles of the qualities in action is a little confusing. Maybe there's a better way to say that, so let's look at what other people say. That's my translation. Winthrop Sargent has But the one who knows the truth, O Arjuna, about the true roles of the qualities in action, thinking the qualities work among the qualities, is not attached. Exactly what I have, actually. But he who knows, but he who knows the truth. Not the one. I have the one who knows the truth. I took out all the he's and made it more gender neutral. That's the only difference, though. Okay? Swami Nikalananda. But, O mighty Arjuna, he who knows about the gunas in action and what is distinct from them holds himself unattached, perceiving that it is the gunas that are occupied with the gunas. Now, he has a different understanding here. He understands sajjate as not that that person is unattached, but they remain unattached on purpose. Right? They are unattached because they recognize that the gunas work among the gunas. And that's a good translation, actually. It's not, it's a little bit of a interpretation, because it says na sajjate, which literally means he is not attached. That person is not attached. Now, in a way, you could understand, I'm going to get a little bit technical here, you could understand that person is not attached as meaning that person is trying to be not attached. Or you could say that that person who understands that is not attached, right? It's a little bit maybe semantics, but I think Nikalananda explains what he's adding here is a little explanatory. So he has gunas are occupied with the gunas as opposed to the gunas work among the gunas, or the qualities work among the gunas, among the qualities. So, now what he has also here is he who knows about the gunas in action and what is distinct from them holds himself unattached. So he understands vibhāgayoḥ in a slightly different way. He reads that as what is distinct, vibhāgayoḥ. So literally, vibhāgayoḥ means in the two roles, in the two spheres, in the two shares. Maybe instead of roles, spheres would be better here. But where he's getting and what is distinct from them, I'm not sure where he's getting that, because that's not actually in the verse. Well, let's go on, okay? Swami Shivananda, but he who knows the truth, O Mighty-Armed Arjuna, about the divisions of the qualities and their functions, knowing that the gunas as senses move amidst the gunas as the sense objects, is not attached. So he has move amidst, as opposed to work amongst. And he's adding some explanatory words here. He's adding gunas as senses move amongst gunas as sense objects. And he also has divisions of the qualities and their functions. Yeah. Which maybe is where Nikalananda, I think Nikalananda probably used Shivananda as my guess. But I'm not exactly sure about that. But he has, what is distinct from them. That's Nikalananda has what is distinct from them. Shivananda has about the divisions of the qualities and their functions. And I think we're going to see other people say, gunas as senses move amongst the gunas as sense objects. That's going to be a common thing that we see. to explain what the verse actually means. Radhakrishnan has, but he who knows the true character of the two distinctions, and then in parentheses he has of the soul from the modes of nature and their works, O mighty-armed Arjuna, understanding that it is the modes which are acting on the modes, does not get attached. He who knows the true character of the two distinctions, the true character of the two distinctions. All right. He also has distinction, right? He has, like Nikalananda, he has distinctions. Shivananda has divisions. He also uses he doesn't use the word qualities for gunas, he uses the word modes. So modes and qualities seem to be the most common words to translate gunas. He has acting on the modes. The modes are acting on the modes. I had work amongst. Pretty much the same thing. Although acting on, the gunas acting on the gunas maybe is clearer, actually. So I have to think about that. Let's go on. I think the major problematic words here are, what is vibhāgayoḥ? What is guṇā, guṇeṣhu, vartanta iti? Right. Those are the main problematic words here in this verse. All right. Now we have Swami Gambhirananda. But, O mighty-armed one, the one who is a knower of the true nature of the body, organs, mind, and their actions, and then in parentheses on the one hand, and the self on the other, does not become attached, thinking thus, the organs get engaged in the objects. So, meaning the sense organs, I think, right? Bodies, organs, mind, and their actions. I think he means, by organs, I think he means the sense organs. And that's very similar to what Shivananda said. But where does he get the true nature of the body, organs, mind, and their actions and the self? I think he's just, he's translating. It's interesting that he's translating guṇa and karma very, very interestingly here. True nature of the body, organs, mind, and their actions, and the self on the other does not become attached. The self is not in this. So I'm not sure where he's getting that exactly. Unless he thinks it's implicit there in the verse, and you just have to read that into it. He really does not translate the word guṇa here, which is interesting. He's not translating the word guṇa, except he's not saying it's a mode, or gunas meaning modes or qualities. He doesn't have that at all here, which is interesting. Let's go on. Sri Purohit Swami, but he, O mighty one. And some people have mighty one. Some people have mighty-armed one. Like Nikalananda had O mighty Arjuna. It really translates as mighty-armed one, or mighty-armed Arjuna. But he, O mighty one, who understands correctly. Yeah, I'm almost done, bud. Okay? All right, bud. I'll be up in a second. Okay, bud? Give me a second. Bud. But he, O mighty one, who understands correctly the relation of the qualities to action, is not attached, to the act, for he perceives that it is merely the action and reaction of the qualities among themselves. This is closer to Winthrop Sargent and to my translation. Understands correctly the relation of the qualities to action, so that would be guṇa-karma-vibhāgayoḥ, is not attached to the act, for he perceives that it is merely the action and reaction of the qualities among themselves. So he translates vartanta here as action and reaction. He's translating gunas as qualities. So he's got, he's got all the elements, more or less. Let's go on. Parama Karuna Devi. O mighty-armed Arjuna, one who knows things as they really are, that's tattva-vit, and then in parentheses, is able to understand the various qualities and activities. Guṇa-karma, right, is qualities and activities, and therefore he engages the qualities / tendencies in the interaction with the appropriate qualities / tendencies. This awareness keeps him free from attachment. So she's adding quite a few things here. And she's definitely changing the meaning from what other people have. Engages the qualities, tendencies. So she's also translating gunas as tendencies. Like she has qualities / tendencies. And why is she doing that? I'm not sure, right? This awareness keeps him free from attachment. Hey, bud, let me finish this video, okay, bud? I'm almost done. So he engages the qualities in the interaction with the qualities. That's quite different. Doesn't seem to be what it's saying, and I'm not sure what she means by this. Most people understand it more that they understand that the gunas are working amongst the gunas, right? Whereas she is suggesting that this individual, he engages the qualities in their interaction with the appropriate qualities. Doesn't really make sense. I'm sure she understood she knew what she was saying, but I'm not sure if anyone else does. B.G. Narasingha. Yet, O mighty-armed one who is a knower of the truth concerning action and the modes of material nature, understands that it is the modes interacting with one another, and thus he remains unattached. This is actually the closest so far, I think, to mine and Winthrop Sargent's. Seems to be a more or less direct translation. I like interacting with one another. Maybe that's a better word. So we're going to come back to that. Usually B.G. Narasingha doesn't have such great translation, but this time I think he's pretty much right on it. Eknat Iswaran. But the illumined man or woman understands the domain of the gunas and is not attached. Such people know that the gunas interact with each other. They do not claim to be the doer. So this is following on the verse before. It does not say they don't, he's adding that. He's adding that because the verse before said that the deluded ones or the ignorant ones think that they are the doer, right? So he's adding that here. The gunas, and he also has the word interact. The gunas interact with each other. He does not translate gunas. He says man or woman, so he doesn't. He's also trying to keep it gender neutral, somewhat. But I don't know if he's consistent with that throughout his whole translation. But at least he does it in this verse. All right, we'll go on. Mukundananda, Swami Mukundananda. O mighty-armed Arjuna, illumined persons distinguish the soul as distinct from gunas and karmas. They perceive that it's only the gunas in the shape of the senses, mind, and others that move among the gunas in the shape of the objects of perception, and thus they do not get entangled in them. So he's doing similar to Shivananda, right? Shivananda, right? He's doing something very similar. And also Gambhirananda, well, not really Gambhirananda, but Shivananda, right? Shivananda has that, and so does, I thought someone else did, but I guess not, right? So Mukundananda, sees it as the gunas in the form of the senses, the mind, that move among the gunas in the form of the sense objects, right? Trying to explain what that actually means. All right, Swami Tadatmananda has, but the one who knows the truth, O Arjuna, about qualities and actions, in quotes, he has qualities act in the body and mind, knowing thus he is not attached. So he's translating gunas as qualities, but then he's saying act in the body and mind. Maybe not the best translation. It's a little confusing, and it's not really staying true to what it actually says. But Shivananda's also did not, in a sense. But this one is not. He could say qualities in the shape of the body and mind would be more accurate. But he does not do that here. Otherwise, I think it's a good translation. All right, Prabhupada has, one who is in the knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty-armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruit of results. This is maybe the worst translation so far, only in the sense that he has knowing well the differences between. First of all, he does not translate na sajjate, which means is not attached. Everyone else did translate that. And he's saying does not engage himself in the senses and stuff and sense gratification. Well, that's not really there specifically. I mean, it says gunas working among the gunas. Something like that, interacting among the gunas, knowing well the differences between work and devotion and work for fruit of results. So he's understanding guna as work for fruit of results, which does not make sense, because it's, the guna does, you can't really translate guna that way. I mean, he does translate it that way, but it's not maybe the best translation of this. Like I said, I think it's the worst of all of these so far. But Jeffrey Armstrong, who's also in that tradition, this is what he has, and he has, I think, a better understanding, and it's closer to Shivananda. O Arjuna, one who understands how the three gunas function within matter, also realizes that the compulsive attractions of our body for desirable objects are in fact created by the gunas. Therefore, those who are thoughtful say to themselves, the truth is, the gunas of my senses are merely attracted by the gunas of their objects. That's Shivananda, right? As a result, they themselves remain detached from such material compulsions. So he's adding quite a bit here. He's got the longest translation yet. He's adding a bunch of explanatory material. It's almost a commentary. It's good. It's not exact translation, but it's helping to explain what it says. Jayadaya Goyanka has he who, however, who has true insight into the respective spheres of gunas, modes of prakriti, and their actions, holding that it is the gunas in the shape of the senses, mind, etc., that move among the gunas, objects of perception, does not get attached to them, Arjuna. So he also has the Shivananda thing, right? And the same as Jeffrey Armstrong. So this is a common thing. Like I said, this is a common way to understand this, that the gunas in the shape of the senses, the mind, etc., that move among the gunas, the objects of perception. In fact, he might have borrowed from Mukundananda, or Mukundananda borrowed from him, because it's almost exactly the same. He translates gunas as modes of prakriti. He doesn't translate it as qualities. He has for vibhāgayoḥ into the respective spheres of gunas and their actions. All right, Bhagavad-gita.org, but O mighty-armed one, a knower of the truth of the fruit of actions of the senses and their diverse functions, he, observing that as the senses engaging in sense objects, does not become attached. The problem with saying that is that it does not say senses and sense objects. It says gunas, right? So you could read that into it, but it might, why wouldn't it say that? If that's what it meant, it would have said that. So that's why that's problematic to translate it that way. The thing about Shivananda, though, is that Shivananda said it is the gunas as senses move amongst the gunas as the sense objects. That's a better translation, because that at least is translating gunas, is explaining that the word guna is in there, right? If you don't have the word guna in there, and you don't translate guna as either modes or qualities or whatever, that's problematic. Mahadev Desai, who has the Gita according to Gandhi, he wrote, but he who, mahā-bāho, understands the truth of the various gunas and their various activities, knows that it is the gunas that operate on the gunas. He does not claim to be the doer. So he has the same thing as Eknadiswaran, right? He's taking what was said in the previous verse and he's adding it here to this one. Does not claim to be the doer for na sajjate. Well, but that's not in the verse. So that's problematic to translate it that way, because it's not actually said there in the verse. It says he's not attached. Does not say he does not claim to be the doer. That's why that's problematic. It's not incorrect. It's just not in the verse. Otherwise, what he has is pretty right on. Let's go on. Google Translate. But, O mighty-armed one, knower of the truth in the division of virtue and action, he does not attach himself thinking that virtues exist in virtues. This is translating gunas as virtues, which does not make sense. I don't know where it's getting virtue for guna, but I'm sure there is a definition of guna, maybe that could be virtue. All right. I'll let you read this on your own. This is going to be in the description. All these are going to be in the description, so you can look at this on your own and try to make sense of it on your own. Sir Edwin Arnold, all things are everywhere by nature wrought in interaction of the qualities. Yeah. So he has qualities for gunas. Maybe that's where because he had one of the earliest translations in English. I think it was 1888 or something. So maybe people got it from him, to translate gunas as qualities. But otherwise, he's, playing fast and loose with the verse. He's not translating quite a lot of the verse there, unless I missed something in what he wrote. Let's go back to the beginning. That was 18 different translations of a single verse. Let's go back to the beginning. Tattva-vit mahā-bāho guṇa-karma-vibhāgayoḥ guṇā-guṇeṣhu vartanta iti matvā sajjate. But the one who knows the truth, tattva-vit too, O mighty-armed Arjuna, mahā-bāho, about the two roles or the two spheres of the qualities and action. Some people have qualities and their activities. Doesn't say that exactly, right? You'd have to read that in a little bit. Having thought, matvā, in quotations, the qualities work among the qualities, guṇā, guṇeṣhu, vartanta iti, is not attached. And Winthrop Sargent has more or less the same. Nikalananda has something very similar. All of these are pretty much the same, except slight differences. Some are definitely more off than others. My translation has tried to stay true to each word and not read into it unless it really is called for. And if I do read something into it, I'll put it in parentheses so that you know that I'm adding it. It's not actually there in the text. Anyway, I think Winthrop Sargent's is very good, and I really mainly used him because he does stay true to the Sanskrit, and he has all of the grammatical forms. He tells you what grammatical form it is for each word, and his translation was published by I thought it was SUNY Press. Let's see. Yeah, State University of New York Press, SUNY Press, which is an academic press, which means that this needed to get peer-reviewed in order to be published. It had to go through a process, and not many translations of the Gita, I don't think, go through that process of peer review. I mean, you might have, I'm sure people have other people reading their translation and giving feedback, but this means that other academics, other scholars, serious scholars of the Gita, had to read this and had to okay it in order for it to be published. Anyway, that's my spiel. That was a long video. If you did watch, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And, if you did watch, why? But otherwise, I hope you got something out of this. And, I think it's just, if you are interested in the Bhagavad Gita, it's helpful to really look carefully at these things. As they say, God is in the details. They also say the devil's in the details. So maybe this is overkill, but you tell me, and I'll see you soon. Hari Om Tat Sat.